Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and any guests and viewers at home. Tonight is June 29th, 2021. This is Golden Speakers Toastmasters of Fairfield, Iowa, our regular Tuesday evening Zoom meeting from 7:45 p.m. to 9 sharp. The mission of our club is to provide a mutually supportive and positive learning environment where each member has the opportunity to develop verbal communication and leadership skills, which lead to increased self-confidence and personal growth. Let's hear it for the mission. Tonight we have a theme, favorite books, and some interesting quotes from 3 or 4 writers on the subject. We will begin tonight's meeting by introducing the role players who will help us run this meeting. The first being Donna Souza, our timer. Donna, would you please give us an explanation of your role as timer?
Hello, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home. My role as the timer is to time the table topics, the speech, tonight's singular, and evaluations. I will alert each speaker as to how much time they have left. I made some cards, and for the table topics, it's at 1 minute, it will be the green card. At 1.5 minutes, it will be the yellow card, and 2 minutes, the red card. And I think the speech at 5 minutes will be the green card. Oh, I have to fix that blurry thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you're right.
at yellow, it's 6 minutes for the yellow, and 7 minutes the red card. And for the evaluations, I will raise the green card at 2 minutes and the yellow card at 2.5 minutes and the red card at 3 minutes. Back to you.
Okay, and we'll look for a brief report from you at the end of the meeting with those times. Thank you, Donna. Let's next hear from Bob Fogel, who will be our counter this evening. Bob, would you explain?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and viewers at home. My role as the counter this evening will be to take special notes of words, sounds, such as crutches, pause fillers, by each and every one of us who speaks during the meeting. I will listen to overused words, including and, well, so, but, you know. I will also listen for filler sounds, including like I will also note when a speaker repeats a word or a phrase, a double tap as it's called, like I, or this means, this means. And then meaning I will give you my report when called upon. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Bob. Later on in the meeting, we will hear from Veda Royale, serving as the general evaluator. He will also be our grammarian this evening. And my request, Veda, is that you would describe to us your role as grammarian.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. As grammarian, I will be listening for very erudite use of the English language, and the word of the day is erudite. I will also be listening for errors in the English language. So I've sent out the word of the day erudite, and it means characterized by great knowledge, learned or scholarly, as in an erudite professor or an erudite commentary. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Great, thank you, Veda. We have a joke master this evening. Our main speaker will also entertain us with a joke. Alex Givens will fill in that toward the end of the meeting. Now what I'd like to do is introduce our prepared speaker for this evening, Miss Alex Givens. Alex has been 19 years in the USA after being born in Brazil and growing up there for some period of time. Moved from South Florida to Fairfield at the beginning of 2021. No, it can't be that recent.
Yeah, January.
Very recently moved to Fairfield, Iowa to conclude the last stage of her studies as a Master of Ayurveda and Integrated Medicine. She will be giving her second talk this evening before our club. She hasn't given me the title to the talk. Alec, could you fill me in on the title?
It's on the agenda, just in case you look there.
Oh, that I didn't. The Road to Graduation. So this is project number 1 of 2 in presentation mastery. In this project, she is going to give us a talk. She really had complete liberty to choose the topic of this talk. The project purpose is for her to present a speech, receive feedback, and apply that feedback to giving a second speech. This first speech that she's giving, The Road to Graduation, the purpose of it is to give that speech and receive the feedback which I, as her evaluator, will be giving to her. So, that being said, I would like to give the microphone over to Miss Alessandra Givens, The Road to Graduation. The Road to Graduation, Alex Givens.
Graduation, such an important moment in a student's life. It marks the end of a long journey and the beginning of a new chapter in life. However, if you're a student of Ayurveda, an integrative approach of medicine, realizing that your study habits are not as healthy as you thought, crossing the finish line may require more than preparation to the final project and exam, but a whole reevaluation of old habits and behaviors. My name is Alessandra Givens, and I would like to share with you my journey towards the completion of my master's program and the lessons that I learned along the way. I've been a student of Ayurveda for the past 3 years, and it has changed my perspective about health and lifestyle. Ayurveda is the world's oldest style of medicine, dated back to more than 5,000 years. This knowledge comes from the manuscripts of the Vedas, which are the same manuscripts that include the whole philosophy of yoga. One of the main points of Ayurveda is to integrate our physiology to the cycles of nature so we can maximize the energy that's already present in the world and use that as healing energy in our physiology. Just like other animals and plants use these natural cycles, Ayurveda revives that for humankind. However, with today's demand, most of our habits are out of tune of these natural cycles. As long as I have been a student, I've always worked full-time jobs during the day and attended school at night. And I could only devote my time for my studies in the late hours of the night, where I had no outside distractions and I could use the silence to put all my attention into the preparation of presentations and study for exams. This was an acceptable behavior before I started studying Ayurveda. As an Ayurvedic student, we learn early on about the circadian rhythms, which are the natural processes that occur in our body that follows the rhythms of night and day. And being out of tune of those cycles is not a healthy habit. Knowing that, I decided to change those old habits and create new ones for my final month of studies. However, as you know, changing habits is not an easy task. And in the first weeks, I was struggling to get my mind to concentrate during the day because it was just not used to. I realized that I had to create a new belief system in order to create a new habit. I decided to share my struggle with my professor, seeking for some advice and expertise. My professor's advice was simple and yet profound. She said, "Don't panic. Just do a little more each day. Slow and steady wins the race." There was also a great advice that came from one of my classmates that had also struggled with that in the past. She recommended me a book called Change Your Schedule, Change Your Life by Dr. Suhas Kishsagar. In this book, he blends the knowledge of chronobiology, cutting-edge science, and the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda. I decided to take a deep breath and put on a can-do attitude. I read the book that explained in detail how to start an early morning routine, follow regular meal time, and early bedtime. And I also remembered my professor's advice, slow and steady. In the following weeks, I saw that I was capable of waking up at 5 a.m. even before the sun was out, and that the silence that I enjoyed so much in the late hours of the night was also there at 5 a.m. I also realized how great it felt to have a productive morning of studies and how energized I felt to do all my physical and mental activities while the sun was out. Naturally, as soon as the sun went down, I was ready to relax and get ready to sleep. To conclude, following this new routine for 2 weeks allowed me to prepare for my final exam, practice what I was learning in this past 3 years, and feel the benefits of being in tune with the natural rhythms of the day. Last week, I finally graduated from my master's program, and I felt very proud to wear my cap and gown, knowing that I put into practice the beautiful and ancient knowledge of Ayurveda. Thank you.
Okay, timer, please give us 2 minutes to prepare some evaluation notes which we can put in the chat to Alex. Now I'd like to turn over the lectern to our general evaluator, Veda. Just a quick check first. Miss Timer, can you tell us whether Alex qualified?
Yes.
Good. That was what I timed also. Okay, now I'd like to turn the meeting over to Veda, our general evaluator, who will launch the evaluation section of our meeting. Veda?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I don't have a schedule in front of me because unfortunately I came late to open, so I'm a little less than prepared. The question is, are we not doing any table topics tonight?
So we are doing table topics. Right now, the agenda calls for you to turn it over to me to evaluate this speech we just heard.
Okay, I think that
would like to revise the schedule to give myself a little more time to put together this evaluation and let the table topics master, Dan Craig, begin now with table topics.
right. I would suggest that you keep control of the meeting until after table topics, and then you can turn it over now as you like. Thank you.
Yeah. So I will ask Dan Craig to now take over as table topics master and run that section of the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. The theme of our meeting tonight is favorite books. Jean had some good quotes on the agenda, which I think most of you have read. This is our chance to speak without preparation about a topic related to that general theme of the meeting. I have 6 questions. I think we have about 15 or 20 minutes of time allocated, and so we all should be able to participate. I would like to have a volunteer, please. Someone who'd like to go first.
Careful, don't everybody sit and raise their hand at once.
Oh, come on. You're muted, Jean.
You can go into voluntold mode. If you need to.
Voluntold. Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to pick on Art first because he's busy right now. Let's hear from Veda first.
Okay, I
Please
guess
pick 1 through 6.
1.
All right. Think of a book that you believe most in the club haven't read and convince us to read it right away. Think of a book that you believe most in the club haven't read and convince us to read it right away.
Mr. Toastmaster, Toastmasters, and viewers at home. There's a book that I'm trying to remember the author, but the name of the book is The Phantom Tollbooth. How many people have read that book? Has anyone read that book? The Phantom Tollbooth was my favorite book growing up. And it was about a small boy named Milo who was totally bored with school and life. And it draws you into this odd circumstance where he goes through a toll booth that appears in his room one day to kind of a land of make-believe. And he discovers the joys of learning. It's just a delightful book. It has really clever drawings on it. It would just charm the pants off any one of you. So I really suggest that you get that book and see what I'm talking about. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Okay, Veda, good job. All right, with that good example, who's my next eager participant? Bob. 2 through 6.
2.
If you could choose one book as a mandatory read for all high school students, which book would you choose and why? If you could choose one book as a mandatory read for all high school students, which book would you choose and why?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. There's 66 books in what they call the Bible. One particular book stands out to me is the book of Proverbs. Why do I like Proverbs? Well, if any of you have read Proverbs before, you would understand why. Proverbs, from birth to death, gives us every kind of answers every kind of question that you might have, from money to sex to hate to fighting to buying this or buying that, who to trust and who not to trust, and things in between. For example, did you know, it might be pretty commonplace, but if you work hard, you prosper? That's in Proverbs. Did you know if you seek wisdom, that's in Proverbs? Did you know to seek what is good or bad? That's in Proverbs. Did you know as a young person, it speaks in Proverbs that you're not even supposed to hang out with the gang, that is the bad gang, when they talk about waylaying someone and, for the loot? That's in Proverbs. It even talks about alcoholism and wild women, but it also talks about good women, and that's in Proverbs. That's why I recommend Proverbs, because it tells you right from wrong, good from bad, basically up from down. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Okay, Bob, thank you. Who is next? Okay, Alex. 3 through 6.
This is 6.
Did you say 6? It cut off a little.
Yeah.
Okay. What is your favorite genre of fiction? Please describe the appeal it has for you. What is your favorite genre of fiction? Please describe the appeal it has for you.
Thanks, Mr. Table Topics, fellow Toastmasters. As I was thinking here, my favorite genre of fiction. Couldn't remember when was the last time that I read a fiction book. I think I'd go more for the self-realization books. But maybe there is one that comes to my mind now that I've been thinking about. It's a book called New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. I wouldn't say it's a fiction, but it's a book of preparation for a new consciousness. It talks about how we can prepare to unite, to do things as community instead of separation. It gives us ideas of to think in progress in a different way than we have watched in the past. So it's not really fiction, but it's a book that kind of play with the imagination and the possibilities and make you believe or think that if we change a few things or act differently, we can have a new earth, a new society. Thank you.
Okay. Folks, these questions are going fast. Strike now. Okay, Art. I've got 3, 4, and 5.
3.
3, who is your favorite author? What do you like about their writing? Who is your favorite author? What do you like about their writing?
Thank you, Mr. Topics Master. Fellow Toastmasters, Neil Stevenson, author of Snow Crash, Cryptonomicon, and a dozen other very popular books, is my favorite fiction author. But lately, I've been reading nonfiction, and my favorites among the nonfiction that I'm reading would currently be Malcolm Gladwell, who wrote Tipping Point and Outliers. I just inhaled those books within the past couple of weeks. Cryptonomicon, I inhaled. It's a big, thick book that I read probably 15, 18 years ago, and I've recommended it to everybody who has any interest in fiction. I just was reading a book by Peter Thiel about startup businesses, in which he mentioned that the group of people that he assembled as the initial staff of PayPal when he was founding that company and getting it off the ground, he said, we were all reading Cryptonomicon, and he mentioned one other book that they were all completely absorbed in. I would say beyond that, I don't have any favorite authors coming to mind. I'm more interested in favorite topics at the moment. Business creativity being the key topic. Back to you, sir.
Thank you, Art. I've got 2 questions, and Jean and Donna both need to go. Jean, your hand is up. 4 or 5?
4.
This is the question I should have given to Veda. What's your most memorable book from childhood? Explain why it appealed to you. What's your most memorable book from childhood? Explain why it appealed to you.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, and viewers at home. It's hard to pick a favorite. I always had my nose in a book growing up. So it's almost like, what was your favorite book in early elementary? What was your favorite book in late elementary, middle school, high school? But so I'm going to take a quick stab and talk about a book that I still have to this day called The Magical Monarch of Mo. It's just a spectacular, fascinating book. And this was more for a younger child. But the land of Mo had everything grew on trees. You could just go out and pick shoes off a tree, and you could just pick all kinds of things off of trees. The river banks were sugar, and the strawberries drifted down the rivers, and you could pick them and dip them in the sand. It was just a wonderful, fabulous place to nourish a young imagination, to be in the land of Mo. Each chapter had its own adventure, but just magical without emphasizing that word too much. I'm just so delighted that I didn't lose it in all of these years, and I still have it in our bookcase. I don't remember the name of the author. If you're interested, I will have to look on the cover, but Magical Monarch of Mo, with great illustrations, just really nourished my deep sense of just whatever is possible. Anything's possible.
Thank you, Jean. I feel that Donna is just anxious to take a table topic. Who would be able to time her?
I'm evaluating, so.
Okay, Art, you can time. All right. Donna, I've got question 5.
Okay.
If you were stranded on a desert island and could bring only 3 books with you, what would they be and why? If you were stranded on a desert island and could bring only 3 books with you, what would they be and why?
Thank you, Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. When I heard the question, I thought, well, I'm going to be stranded on an island. I might as well bring a book about local herbs or plants that I could use, a field guide to medicinal plants. Of course, I don't know which island I'm stranded on, so it'd have to be a very general book, unless maybe I knew what island I was going to be stranded on. Probably getting too far into the imagination of the island, but I think that would be one field guide to plants. And the second would probably be the Bible. I couldn't think of any other book that had such interesting stories. And if I'm alone on this island and I'm stranded there and I'm never gonna leave, I'm probably gonna need to self-soothe, and I'm gonna need a higher power to survive this island. And the third book only comes to mind because it's a book I'm currently reading, and that is an anthology of the personal essay. And it's a really big book. It's like 700 or 800 pages, and it's filled with tons of personal essays from Plutarch and Seneca to Montaigne, and hundreds of years ago to James Baldwin and Joan Didion. And so I feel that I would be occupied for quite a while with that book and the other two. And that is my answer. Back to you.
Mr. Toastmaster, have we gone far enough on our schedule? You have to allow 3 minutes for you to do your speech evaluation. I think we're right about in the right spot, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm checking right now. Let's see, we're at 8:05. Yeah, we're good. I'm ready to go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm going to turn it back to, oh, no, I guess the first thing I need to do is ask our timer to tell us who qualified.
Art qualified, Veda qualified, Alex qualified, Jean qualified, Bob qualified, and Art,
Definitely qualified.
did I qualify?
Yes.
So everyone qualified.
Everyone qualified. Before Art gives his speech evaluation, we should vote for best table topic speaker. Send a chat to Art. He's the Toastmaster. Say TT and then your preference. And in terms of introducing Art, Veda, would you like to take over at this point and introduce the evaluators?
I can do that at this point. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Actually, I guess we've gone directly from the table topic master, but thank you, Dan. I will ask for Art to give us the evaluation of the speech. Please give us the evaluation for the speech of Alex. Art.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Alex, for the talk. And fellow Toastmasters, what I really liked about Alex's presentation was lots of vocal variety, clear, straightforward, chronological organization, excellent use of English language, which is her second. I don't know, there may be other languages in there, but it's not her first language. The best part of her talk, in my opinion, was when she enunciated one of the principles of Ayurvedic living, which is to integrate one's habits with the cycles of nature, and then showed how she identified one way in which she was out of sync with natural cycles, the habit of staying up really late, and how she disciplined herself to revise that habit to early to bed, early to rise, finding that the silence was just as good in the early morning, and that it gave her the victory that she was looking for, the ability to complete the work she needed. So it was a simple personal story illustrating a major principle from her studies. I would suggest to improve the talk. Well, backing up, it was really great that she decided to stand. And being that she was standing, she could have done more gesturing with her hands. She didn't take advantage of that which standing allows. And I would suggest also that the speech could be improved by taking the opportunity to emphasize how adopting this principle from Ayurveda was facilitating studies, was facilitating other aspects of her life, so as to give the principle more validation in her life, which I'm sure is there. I'm complete now with the evaluation. The next step would be to start hearing from role players.
Nope. Table topics, evaluator.
Oh, we have a
I
tabletop.
think it's
I
still
think-
beta.
Yeah, I mean, I could be still in control of the meeting. So I will. Okay, so we have voted for the best table topics, and yeah, we're going backwards and forwards. Do we have an evaluator for the table topics?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, Jean, please take it away.
Let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe 3 to 4. What do you guys think? Dan, what do you? Okay,
Three
Okay,
to four, I would say. That would
Three
be
to
fine.
okay.
I have a question. When I was only prepared for the cards to go up at 2 minutes, 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and 3 minutes. So then when the time changes, what do I put the cards up? At what time?
It's a good question. So we're going to give me 3 to 4. So the green will go up at 3,
Uh-huh.
and the yellow at 3.5, and the red at 4.
Okay.
Okay. Just bumping it down the road a little bit. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Golden Speakers, and viewers at home. Had some great questions from Dan this evening. Favorite books, love that topic. Veda got the question about the book that he thought people might not have read and to convince us to read it. He did answer the question. and he did greet the audience. And the answer was the Phantom Toll Booth. He said his main reason for it was that it was charming. He gave us a slight plot synopsis. My suggestion for Veda would be more specifics on what are the components for that key selling point. If the key selling point was it was charming, I'd like to know, maybe have a couple of examples of why it specifically was charming, or pick another adjective that stands out and give some sub points on what that is. As an audience member, I just got that it was charming, but possibly could have been sold a little bit more. Bob had the question about the mandatory high school book. He answered it was the book of Proverbs from the Bible. He was very convincing. He says it gives you all the answers. Well, that's pretty solid. And that's a hook for the audience, because high school kids, just about anybody, is looking for answers. So that hooked me. And he did give some examples. He gave them pretty quickly how to, if you work hard, you prosper. Don't hang out with bad gangs. He sort of had a list of things that he gave us illustrations, specific illustrations. And he had a good conclusion. He went back to the beginning. He says, that's why I would recommend the Proverbs as this mandatory book. It's right from wrong and up from down. And he had a couple things there. Unfortunately, I did not have a suggestion for Bob, although I didn't hear the part about sex, but like what the answer was for sex, but we don't really talk about that in these meetings. So that's a side conversation, and that might help me be more sold. Alex had the question about favorite genre of fiction and why it appeals. Alex did an interesting segue, and it was a good example. She really was upfront that she wasn't really reading fiction. So she answered that question. And then she said what she was reading, though, was self-development. And then she took off on something that she was reading and had enjoyed with self-development. So that was a good, graceful way of moving the needle over to something that she could talk about. My suggestion to Alex would be to why she likes self-development books, and to relate her recommendation to the audience's interest, like why they should like self-development too, so that people are more invested in listening to what she's going to say. Because you always want to do what's in it for me, for the audience. They're always looking at that, and you'll lose them if they don't get that. Art had the question about the favorite author and why. He answered Neil Stevenson, but then he went into Malcolm Gladwell. By the way, Malcolm Gladwell does great podcasts. Hope you've caught those. And then Peter Thiel. My suggestion to Art, again, would be to pick one, think about it and pick one, and then go with that. I think it's more powerful. He did tell us he's more interested in topics rather than authors. He could have picked a favorite author on a topic that he's interested in. So just a little bit more specificity and narrowing down. Finally, Donna had the 3 books on an island. She answered the question perfectly. Field Guide is practical. Bible is your higher power. And then also the anthology for her entertainment. The conclusion would be the suggestion, instead of saying that's my answer, maybe say after summarizing those 3 books again for the audience, you can attest to your fitness to be stranded on an island right away, and just could even smile and say, so sign me up.
Thank you, Jean. So do we have do we have a timing for who qualified for evaluation tonight, Donna?
Yes, I believe Jean qualified. She had 4 minutes and 29 seconds, and that's within the range, right? 4 minutes. 30.
Yeah.
And Art qualified.
1 second.
Okay, so Art and Jean
Yeah.
we should have a vote at this time that goes to Art as, yes, so please vote for the best.
Yeah, put the letters ED before the name that you choose.
EV. Okay. All right, I voted. So the next point is going to be to go on to the reports. For the timer is Donna, could you please give the full report of the exact times of all the speakers?
Yes, thank you. The table topics speakers, Art had 2 minutes, 16 seconds. Veda had 1 minute, 22 seconds. Alex had 1 minute, 40 seconds. Jean had 2 minutes, 8 seconds. Bob had 1 minute, 42 seconds. And that's the table topics. Art, what was my time?
219.
2:19? Okay. And now for the speech, that was 5 minutes and 42 seconds, Alex's speech. And the evaluators, Jean had 4 minutes, 29 seconds, and Art had 3 minutes, 11 seconds.
Great job, Donna. I'm going to skip over to the odd counter right now. Could we have the odd counter? Bob, could you please give your report?
Yes, here's my report, Veda. First of all, Alex, on her opening speech, she did real clean. Only thing that I picked up that she had one repeat, and she also had like 2 false starts or 2 pauses, however you want to say it. Next was Veda. He had 3 ums and 3 so's. And then Alex, again, when she gave her impromptu, she had 2 ahs, 2 ums, and 1 but. Jean, she had 1 ah, 2 buts, and 1 repeat or double tap. Donna, she had 2 ahs, 2 ums, 1 well, 2 so's. Art, he had 2 so's. And then Jean's, for her evaluation, she had 3 buts and 1 repeat. That's my report. Back to you.
Thank you, Bob. I'm the grammarian and I'm the general evaluator. So I'm going to do the grammarian's report. And I think I'm going to possibly combine that with the evaluation of the evaluators, if that's okay, because I've got my notes all mixed. It might happen anyway. Tonight was a great meeting.
We have a joke master though.
I'll do the joke master after. I mean, it's going to be too difficult for me to separate my reports. I've just got so much notes here. So the joke is going to distract me, and then I'll forget how to evaluate everybody else. It's going to be real brief, I assure you. For the word of the day, I did not hear anyone use the word erudite outside of my using it as an example. So we messed up that one. However, it was a tricky table topics, and our hands were really busy. Alex, on her speech, used the term dated back to 5,000 years, and that is somewhat technically correct, but it also could be dates back to 5,000 years. It seems like it's generally accepted that both of those could be correct. In terms of interesting phrases, she started hitting a roll at one point, and she had the phrases slow and steady wins the race. She talked about the book, Change Your Schedule, Change Your Life, and that we need a can-do attitude. The only other suggestion for Alex is that she avoids using simply the word thank you and instead uses the term thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I wasn't listening to what I said. Bob had the mandatory read of Proverbs, and he just had so much good material in. And I'm just going to mention that he had lots of good examples, but I couldn't write them down quick enough. Alex didn't have anything really new that was unusual. She mentioned the New Earth book. I have points of evaluation, but I don't have anything unusual for Art. And Jean gave us an interesting turn of events where she said, nourished my deep sense of possible, which she evidently just made up on the spot. And then she went to the more common, anything is possible. So I liked how she linked her own invented saying with the one we know. This isn't exactly grammatically something, but Donna, I thought it was hilarious that she would say that we would have to find a very general island in order to have this adventure. Instead of, so we have to bring more general books to this island because we don't know what kind of island this is. So it's got to be a general island. It's got to be sort of like Gilligan's Island, where they never knew what kind of island they're going to be stranded on. So they would just have to bring general reading material, general books. As far as an evaluation, I thought that Jean did an excellent job. We'll start with Jean. She had so many people to go through. She always mentioned what they did right. She always mentioned what they had as far as suggestions. There was 1 or 2 times that she either didn't have one or the other, but out of 3 out of 5 people, she had both points, and 2 people that she had one or the other. So excellent job, Jean. As far as Art's evaluation, he's an old pro, so we put a very high bar, and he was just about to miss certain things, and then he backtracked, and then it just wiped out almost all of my suggestions. So I guess the only other suggestion that I could give to Art would be to possibly mention something about her vocal quality or her vocal variety. And I'll give a general evaluation if we need it after the joke. So now I will mention that we have a joke master, and our joke master is Alex. Please let us have your hilarity, Alex.
Thanks, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters. I have a few jokes that you guys are gonna have to guess what it is. What do you call an alligator in a vest?
In a vest?
Well, that's not my best friend, but I'm sure that's not the answer.
Go
It's a
on.
Miami joke.
The Miami joke. Yeah. It's an investigator.
Oh,
Okay,
good.
very good.
What do you call a classy fish?
Is it classy or classic?
Classy,
Classy.
classy fish.
Oh.
on a sophisticated, sophisticated.
A sophisticate.
Uh,
A sophisticate.
What do you get when you cross a snowman with a vampire?
Snowman with a what?
A vampire?
Snowman with a vampire.
I want to say a
pink.
puddle, but that doesn't make sense.
A pink snowman.
No.
What did Donna want to say? I want to hear.
I said I want to say a puddle, but I'm not sure why.
Very cold something, but I don't know the answer.
Frostbite.
A frost.
Frostbite.
yeah, that's
That
fine.
makes sense.
Oh.
Would you
Last
tell the
one.
alligator one again? I missed a word. I missed
The
a,
alligator?
yeah. What do you,
Alligator in the vest is an investigator.
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 thank you. That's the best one to learn.
And the last one, what is the difference between a hippo and a zippo?
Oh,
Oh,
I've
yes,
heard this before.
yes.
One's a lighter,
A
one's a
little lighter.
Yeah, one's a little lighter. Yeah, Art got it. Art got it. Yeah.
I forgot half of it. One is really heavy and the other is a little lighter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. That's all I have.
All right.
Thank you,
Those two were
Alexander.
the winners in that bunch. The investigator and the-
Investigator.
Art's off on that one.
I really like that we haven't actually heard these, and very clever, Alex. Alex did a great job tonight, and we had a great meeting. And any other points I've certainly forgotten. So I'll turn it back to the Toastmaster.
Art.
Okay, meeting award time. Okay. So we had a prepared speech this evening and it came in on time and it was a great talk. So let's hear a drum roll for our favorite speaker,
Yay.
Alan.
Hey. She's in the ring now. She took her coat off.
Okay. We had a winner in table topics where the votes were all over the map. I'm going to call it for Bob.
Bob. Woo.
Oh, hey.
Table topic. And the votes were unanimous in favor of Jean as the better evaluator of the evening.
Oh.
I would even vote that way.
So would Jean.
Well, I can avoid voting for myself, Dan. You know, just
I now declare this meeting complete or adjourned to Tuesday, a week from today. Look forward to all of you being together again with us.